How are you guys doing? Today is Wednesday, December 7th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I am going to do an elite individual profile for Pete Alonso. The elite first baseman for the New York Mets turns 28 today, and looking at where he is right now, I'm coming off of his fourth season with the New York Mets. He is a two-time All-Star in this league after he would win the Rookie of the Year in 2019. This past season in 2022, he would be the National League's RBI leader, as he would help the Mets finish with 100 wins, and he would help the Mets make it back into the playoffs for the first time since 2016. Not to mention that he is coming off of a season where he would record over 40 home runs and over 100 RBIs for the second time. Looking at what makes Pete Alonso, he is definitely a very great power hitter, but of course he can hit for contact as well. His batting averages are around what the league average would be, but it is his raw power that sends the ball a lot further than most other people would hit it. And considering he's had a very amazing 4 years in this league, I'm very surprised that he's not really a bigger star than he is, considering he's playing in New York. But of course, nonetheless, I will digress and get into his career. Initially playing high school baseball, in Tampa, Florida. He would go on and play college baseball with the Florida Gators, as in his junior year with Florida, he would compete with them in the College Baseball World Series. In his last year, he would finish with a 374 batting average with a 659 slugging percentage. He would finish with 14 home runs and 60 RBIs in 58 games. And of course, I'm getting this off of the Wikipedia. Following his amazing collegiate career, he would go on and be selected by the New York Mets with the 64th overall pick of the 2016 MLB draft. This, of course, would be the draft in which the only player that was selected above him that would make an All-Star game to date is Brian Reynolds. He was taken with the 59th pick by San Francisco out of Vanderbilt. Not to mention that Pete Alonso was taken a couple of picks ahead of Bo Bichette, the elite shortstop for Toronto, as Bo Bichette was drafted out of high school. After being drafted by the New York Mets, Pete Alonso would make his debut in the MLB just 3 years later in 2019. His record-breaking NL Rookie of the Year campaign would come in his age 24 season, as he would play 161 games for a New York Mets team that would go 86-76. They would win 9 more games than the previous year. This would be the year where Jacob deGrom would win his second straight Cy Young, by the way. In 2019, as a rookie, Pete Alonso had 155 hits in those 161 games, 6 less hits than games. He would finish with 103 runs. To this date, his rookie year has his career high in runs. It has his career high in doubles, as he had 30 doubles that year, the only time he's eclipsed 30. He would finish with 2 triples that year. He would hit a career high 53 home runs that would lead the National League, and I still believe that's a National League rookie record, if not an MLB rookie record. He would go on and finish with 120 RBIs, which is the second most RBIs he's ever had in a season in his career. He would go on and finish with 22 more strikeouts than games played, but of course that's expected. His 260 batting average would be about where his career average is right now. He would go alongside that and finish with a 583 slugging percentage. His rookie slugging percentage would be the highest slugging percentage of his career, and if I'm not mistaken, slugging percentage is the amount of total bases divided by at-bats. And then he would go on and finish with an OPS of on-base plus slugging of 941. It would be the only season of his 4 years in the league where his OPS was above 900. It will be 47 points better than the average hitter in the National League. He would finish his rookie year with 348 total bases, which is also a career high for him as well. In 2019, while putting up record-breaking numbers, he would be named an All-Star in his very first year in the league. He would finish 7th in MVP voting in a year where Cody Bellinger would win it for the LA Dodgers. He would go on and win the Rookie of the Year in 2019 as well, as he would win it over Mike Soroka of the Atlanta Braves. Following his All-Star season, the New York Mets, like I said, would miss the playoffs, and this would lead into Pete Alonso's second year with the team. His second year, his age 25 season in 2020, would see him play 57 games in a season where the MLB had to shorten its schedule due to COVID protocol. They would expand the playoffs, however, but the Mets would not qualify for the playoffs. This year, Pete Alonso would play 57 games in a season where the Mets would go 26-34. They would miss the playoffs for the fourth year running. However, in those 57 games, they wouldn't name all-stars, but Pete Alonso probably would have thrown his hat in the ring. He had 48 hits in those 57 games. That is 9 less hits than games. He finished with 31 runs on the season. He would finish with 6 doubles. He would finish with 16 home runs and 35 RBIs, at least finishing amongst the leaders in home runs for that 60-game year. He would finish with 4 more strikeouts than games played, as he would finish with a .231 batting average, the lowest batting average of his career. With an OBP under 400 and a slugging percentage under 500, his OPS of 817 would be the lowest that he would put together in his career. But of course, in the shortened 2020 season, a lot of all-time greats would see their worst statistical season come in that year. Once that 2020 season was over, the Mets, like I said, would miss the playoffs, and this would transition us into Pete Alonso's third season with the Mets. In his age 26 season in 2021, Pete Alonso would play 152 games in a season where the Mets would finish with a 77-85 record. They had the same record as the year before he had gotten there, as they had 9 less wins than the last full season they had. They would miss the playoffs for the 5th year in a row, as Pete Alonso would miss the All-Star game. He had 147 hits in 152 games. That's 5 less hits than games. He would finish with 81 runs on the year. He would finish with 27 doubles. He had 37 home runs alongside 94 RBIs, the second time in a 3-year stretch in his second straight full season where he's had at least 35 home runs and at least 90 RBIs. 2021 would see Pete Alonso finish with a .262 batting average, as he had 25 less strikeouts than games played. First time he had that. He would go on and finish with a .519 slugging percentage. It would be the second time in his first 3 years that he would have a slugging percentage of over 500. His OPS of 863 would be 33 points better than the average hitter in the National League, as once his season came to an end, his 291 total bases would be 9 shy of 300. Once that 2021 season was over, it would lead into this most recent season that Pete Alonso has played. Pete Alonso would go on and be named an All-Star for the second time in just his 4th year in this past 2022 season. He would play 160 games in a season where the Mets would finish with a 101-61 record. This would be a season where Buck Showalter would win the Manager of the Year, as they won 24 more games than the prior season. In 2022, Pete Alonso would have 162 hits in 162 games. His 162 hits is an active career high for him, and it would be the only season in his first 4 years where he's had more hits than games played. His 95 runs is the second most amount of runs he's put together in a season. His 27 doubles from this past season is the second most amount of doubles, second to his rookie season. Surprisingly, he would finish with no triples, but he did finish with 40 home runs. The second time in his career he would eclipse 40 home runs. His 131 RBIs would be tied with Aaron Judge for the most in the entire MLB, but he would lead the entire National League, as that would be a career high for him, and the second time that he would have more than 120 RBIs in a season. He hit a career high in 5 stolen bases in 2022. Pete Alonso would finish with a .271 batting average, the best batting average of his career, as he would finish with 32 less strikeouts than games played. He would finish with a .518 slugging percentage, making it 3 of his first 4 years. He would have a slugging percentage over 500. His OPS that year would be .869, 46 points better than the National League average. He would finish with 309 total bases, making it the second season in his career, including his rookie season, that he would finish with over 300 total bases in a year. This past season, he would also lead the National League in intentional walks. He was intentionally walked 16 times. In the middle of the season, he was named an All-Star for the second year in a row, and at the end of the season, he would finish 8th in MVP voting, in a season that would see Paul Goldschmidt at the same position win the MVP. Following this 2022 season, the New York Mets would end up losing in the wild card round to the Padres. This would be Pete Alonso's very first playoff appearance. This season, the team that would represent the National League in the World Series, the Philadelphia Phillies from the Mets division, would end up losing to the Houston Astros in 6 games. But of course, that brings us to where we are right now. Pete Alonso is about to enter his 5th season come March or April, to be more specific. He is still, I would believe, in the midst of his prime, playing for a very strong New York Mets team who has just bolstered their pitching rotation. And I do think that the New York Mets may be out for blood this upcoming year, but I do know that they will not be lacking in production from the first base spot, especially where Pete Alonso has been playing. He is an incredible offensive player who does have the ability to play elite defense. But of course, that brings us to where we are now. I do wish Pete Alonso a happy 28th birthday. I would not say it's completely unheard of or completely crazy for him to possibly end up with an MVP by the time his career is said and done. But with that said, I do hope all is well. And even though I'm a Braves fan, I do like Pete Alonso as a player. Thanks for listening. Once again, today is Wednesday, December 7th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and this is The Elite. Thanks for listening. I hope all is well, and peace out. I will catch you with more tomorrow. Watch more of Pete Alonso. As of right now, he's currently wearing number 20 with the New York Mets. Happy birthday. Peace out.